Recently, on September 15th, Kemi Seba, the Pan Africanist, the African nationalist, the African freedom fighter, was arrested upon his arrival in Benin. And there was really no justification for his arrest, but he was arrested along with a few of his colleagues, Henry and Seth, and they were released subsequently a few hours later. And a response came from the Russian Alexander Dugin that really sparked the attention of a lot of people based upon the commentary that he gave on this. And I'm going to, read some of the quotes from some things that he said. But it's really got me thinking about, neo-colonial Africa and how these various countries work towards the benefit of Western countries, where they would prosecute and arrest a brother like a Kemi Seba who was trying to fight for the betterment of African people who had done nothing illegal in their country, but doing this as a way to not just threaten, but to try to prevent him from being able to move freely around the continent. And we've seen this throughout history where you have these Mobutu agents or these race traders who are trying to line their own pockets, who are trying to uh, receive or who are receiving funds from various agents around the world to keep Africa in a poor and exploitive state.
Mhm.
And this is just another example of why in countries like this, like Benin, where this is allowed to happen, there needs to be an overthrow of the leadership because these leaders are aligned with anti-African Western imperialist countries. So when I saw this arrest initially, I said to myself, here we go again. But I want to read what Alexander Dugin had to say about this situation. And if you're not familiar with Alexander Dugin, I'm going to pull up his picture here. Here you can see a picture of him with Kemi Seba. And he talks about Kemi Seba's relationship with Russia. And he calls it, Kemi Seba a friend of Russia and a staunch advocate of the multipolar world. So what he says here is he says, look at what our enemy is doing. He destroys, kidnaps, throws into prisons, and persecutes the best among us, whoever they may be, whichever nation they belong to, whatever skin color they have. The global enemy hunts down people of ideas. This was what he released on his Telegram. And he goes on to say, and here the West, through the hands of its puppets, unfortunately has succeeded. Anti-globalist leaders, even figures like Trump or Tucker Carlson, are subjected to cruel and baseless legal prosecution, thrown into prisons. Assange, he's talking about Julian Assange, now Kemi Seba, and destroyed by Ukrainian terrorist mercenaries. Here at last, the list is getting longer and longer, exactly as per Clausewitz. So he's referring to the general, I believe, Karl von Clausewitz, who talked about destroying the centers of gravity of the enemy. But he says that we must achieve the liberation of Africa's hero, Kemi Seba, even if it means overthrowing the dictatorship of the Hill. We are committed to helping Africa. Our duty is to assist in the liberation of the leader of the Pan Africanists at any cost. He is our center of gravity, not so much because he is for Russia, but primarily because he is for Africa. Now, as we've stated in past programs, as African people, we're not waiting around for anybody to come save us. So we're not, accepting uh, people believing that the only way that African people can be liberated is if somebody else steps up to the plate. But at the same time, anybody that's in a war wants to have an ally, and Russia has been an ally of Africa for a very long time. Um, Not necessarily that I agree with Dugin and what he talks about with Trump and Tucker Carlson from the perspective of me supporting Trump and Tucker Carlson, but what he is saying about the attack that is happening against them is accurate, and it's the same type of attack that we've seen against African leaders in the past by these same forces. And it's the same attack that we're seeing throughout the world: social media, censorship, which we'll get into another topic later. But this is happening to all of us, and unless we see it and call it out, it's no longer just happening to Black people. Now this is spread into whoever is not aligned with the agenda. They're going to attack you. They're going to uh, throw all of their forces against you to try to stop you from being able to stop them. And when I look at this situation, it's very disheartening that once again you have Africans, Black people, working at the behalf of these people. But Baba Makru, what were your thoughts when you initially heard this news and saw the arrest of Kemi Seba in Benin?
Well, you made me aware of it, so I started doing some research to see, what the status is. Of course, we know that Kemi Seba, is Beninese, uh, Beninese, I guess, and he's been living there, since he got kicked out of Cote d'Ivoire, persona non grata in Senegal. The two leading neo-colonies of France in West Africa, with Benin competing, to get on the platform to get the bronze medal. And so I found this Afrique page. I'm gonna read what they've said. Um, French Beninese political activist Kemi Séba was reportedly apprehended on Friday, September 15, 2023, at the airport in the capital of Benin. Multiple sources said he was taken to the police department this Saturday, which would have been the 16th. Franco-Spanish lawyer Juan Branco announced that he had been released, although he is still facing legal proceedings. So he was arrested at the airport. There's a question as to whether he was at the airport to board a plane to go to Niger to participate in some rallies, or if he had gone to the airport to meet his friend, what's his Harry Jehudi. So that the question as to why he was in the airport, is up in the air. But the fact that he was arrested said that he was the reasons for the arrest of this anti-imperialist activist were finally clarified by the lawyer, who stated this morning that Kemi Seba is being pursued for incitement to insurrection. So apparently that's the charge that he faces in Benin. And I think the question is, is he arrested, released, but detained? Can't leave the country, or exactly what is going on. We really need to find out, because Kemi Seba is one of the most significant leaders in the struggle for the liberation and empowerment of African people. Now, one of the interesting things that has been taking place, as France has been going through all kinds of gyrations to maintain the presence of its military and of its embassy in Benin, in Niamey, the capital of not Benin, in Niger, Niamey, Niger, the capital. they have refused to leave after being ordered to leave the country. That is the ambassador and other French officials. Uh, the people of Niger and the leaders have said that they want the French military to evacuate the military base that they have in Niamey. So in France has been refusing to abide by the wishes of the government, of Niger. And there have been numerous reports that France has been staging military equipment for an invasion of Niger, along with soldiers in Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Benin. Benin was one of the first countries that said that when ECOWAS was making all of its irrational statements about uh, using military action to restore the neo-colonial puppet Bazoum in Niger. Benin was one of the first countries to say that they supported, such activity. And I really did think about Kemi Seba at that time because, like I said, he's reported to be living there now, and I wondered exactly, how his historical activism for the liberation of African people uh, was being handled given the neo-colonial puppet regime of Talon in Benin. So, those were my initial thoughts. So, the good news from this report is that our good brother, has been released from prison or from jail, but we don't know his status beyond that. Is he under house arrest? Is he being detained? What exactly is going on, beyond that, I don't know. I did see one other source that said that he had actually made it to Niger, but all of this is unconfirmed. So I really don't know. I need some French translations of some of the other sites that have been reporting on this, but that's all I know at this point, brother. Almost.
Well, that makes sense, and that provides a lot of clarity because if they knew that he was traveling to Nigeria, of course they would try to bring up some type of suits or charges to try to prevent him from being able to reach his destination. And we know when we look at the United States, we know that the First Amendment gives people the freedom of speech. In a lot of other countries, that First Amendment does not exist, and people don't have that same freedom of speech. Um, so in other countries, it's easy for them to charge you with inciting an insurrection or speaking out against the government or speaking out against the president. But we're now seeing even in this country that you can face that same scrutiny and be charged just based upon your words. And we're moving in a direction where your First Amendment rights are now being infringed upon or have been infringed upon. Most people just aren't aware of it. But if we start with, the boycott Israel or BDS movement that has been restricted in various states. If you speak out or you pledge that you're going to boycott Israel, they, cut wages and cut how much you can actually make as a business in that particular state. And, we've seen situations where not necessarily from a prison standpoint, but just in the social makeup of being able to speak on certain things, you being ridiculed and you being castrated economically in the social space, social media, what have you, based off of what you say.
Mm-hmm.